Hey everybody, I'm here today to tell you whether you should lease, finance, or buy a car. I'll be going over the ups and downs, the pros and cons of each of those three options and telling you about which one you should choose depending on your own personal situation. Now let's get right to it. Now, just for clarification, in terms of lease, I'm talking about making payments on a car while never owning it. You're leasing it for a term and you're not owning it. When I'm talking about financing, I'm talking about making payments on a car but eventually owning that vehicle. So you want to make payments for a term and then eventually you will own the car. When I'm talking about buying a car, I'm talking about buying it outright. No financing plan. You just walk into the car dealership and you pay for the car full price. Okay? So let's get right to it. I'm going to start off with leasing. Okay? So there are pros and cons with leasing. Now, one of the pros with leasing is that you get a lower monthly payment. Leasing is the cheapest short-term option for buying a car. Your monthly payments are basically as low as they can be when you lease a car. Okay? It's the cheapest short-term option, but leasing is the most expensive long-term option. That means that when you look at having a car, driving a car or cars over a 10 or 12 or 15-year period, leasing is actually the most expensive option. So it's the cheapest short-term option, but it's the most expensive long-term option. But with that being said, leasing will allow you to get into a pretty good car that you regularly couldn't afford with the other options, but you can afford it with leasing. Meaning, if you can only afford a $20,000 car with a financing plan, then with a leasing plan, you might be able to get yourself into a $25,000 car or even a $30,000 car, okay? So with that being said, you can get yourself into a next level car while still making the payments. But another downside is that you never get away from the payments. When you constantly lease cars, you're always making a car payment. You will always have a car payment. You will always have a payment. That monthly payment will never leave you, okay? And with that also being said, you're going to always have a payment, but if you're leasing a car every 3 years, you're going to end up having a new car every 3 years. You're always going to have an almost new car that you're driving, okay? So every 3 years, you're going to get to choose a new car. So those are all of the upsides and downsides of leasing. Next, I want to talk about financing. An upside of financing is that eventually you own the car. Okay, with leasing, you never own the car. You're always kind of leasing the car and then you give it back. With financing, you actually own the car, which is a plus side if you want to modify the car. Because if you're leasing a car, you can't really modify it depending on the terms. I mean, most leases will not allow you to modify the car in any way, shape, or form. With financing, when you own the car, you can modify it without having to worry about things because it's your car. You own the car. Okay, now with that being said, the financing payments are higher because you will own the car than leasing payments. So the financing monthly payments will be higher because instead of just paying off a part of the car when you lease it, with financing, you end up paying off the whole car in a certain term. But with that being said, there are many different financing terms. Some car dealerships and car manufacturers will allow you to finance a car up to 8 years. That means you can pay off the car in up to 8 years. Now, I wouldn't personally recommend that. I would stick to a shorter term like 3 to 5 years, maybe even 6 years, but you can take the option of paying off the car up to 8 years, okay? With that being said, a pro of financing is also that the financing percentage, the interest percentage is relatively low. You can finance cars for a relatively cheap amount of money. And another pro is that instead of buying the car, let's say you were going to a $30,000 car, okay? If you buy the car, okay, you're taking that money that you could have invested and you're buying the car and you're not paying, let's say, the 3% financing interest rate on that $30,000, okay? But if you finance it, okay, you end up paying 3% interest on that $30,000 car loan. But if you invest it in an investment, if you take that $30,000 that you would have spent to buy the car and you invest it in something that pays 7% or 8%, you're actually making money because you're taking the $30,000, you're investing it in something that pays you 7%, and you're paying only 3% interest on the car loan, okay? So with that being said, there is an upside to financing, okay? Now we're going to move on to buying because I already started addressing it with the last point. With regards to buying, That is the option where you walk into a car dealership and you buy the car. The good thing is that if you have the cash on hand, a lot of car dealerships will give you a little bit of an incentive. A lot of car dealerships will offer you $2,000 or $1,500 or even $3,000 to buy the car outright, to not finance and not lease it, to just walk in there and buy it. The good thing is that you never have financing payments or leasing payments. You buy the car and all that you have to worry about are your maintenance payments, your gas payments, and your insurance payments. So your monthly cost of owning that car goes way down. The downside is that you have to have the money on hand. Now, oftentimes when you buy a car, it's going to cost upwards of like $20,000 if you're buying a new car. And it can go up to way more if you go into cars that cost 80 or 90 grand. You need to have that money in your bank account to actually buy the car outright, just like that. So basically, those are all of the options. And the truth of the matter is that it all depends on your own financial situations. For some people, it might be more beneficial to lease a car. They want to be in a new car every 3 years. And they don't mind the car payments. They can afford a car payment. They have a set income. They know they're going to make money. So they can afford the car payment every month. So leasing might be their best option. For others, they want to own the car. They want to modify the car. Okay, they don't mind paying more for a financing payment, but they want to own the car because they want to have it for 5, 10, 12, 15 years. For others, buying might be the best option. If they have the money in their bank account, if they have 50 grand sitting in their bank account, it's a good idea to buy the car. They don't have to worry about any interest payments. They don't have to worry about any payments at all. They just walk off the car dealership driving their car fully paid off. So the truth of the matter is that it all depends on your own financial situation and what you value the most. But I've gone over the pros and cons of each of those three options. And I've sort of told you a little bit of a hack for using your money in the right way. If you want to take your money, instead of buying the car outright, if you have that money to buy the car outright, you can instead take that money and invest it in an investment that'll pay you a high percentage, and then you're only paying a lower percentage of interest on that car loan. So you can actually sort of use your money wisely and make a little bit of money in the process. But that's basically it. In this video, I've basically gone over everything that I could tell you about leasing, financing, and buying. The choice is yours. Choose whatever suits your own financial needs. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think about leasing versus financing versus buying in the comments section down below. And above all, please be sure to subscribe for more great car videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.